All righty, here we roll. So welcome everybody today to the June edition of the DevSecOps Bunch. Today's topic is streamlining the DevSecOps toolchain to deliver high quality mobile apps faster. I'm excited to have Angel Rivera from CircleCI with me today. And of course, they are one of the world's greatest CI/CD platforms. And he's been doing this as long or longer than I've been doing. And so, Angel, would you like to introduce yourself to the crowd here as we get started?
Yeah. Thanks so much, Brian, for inviting me on this panel. I'm excited to be broadcasting live from Iceland. Yeah, I'm a little bit ahead of the US, but super excited to be here. My name is Angel Rivera. I'm a developer advocate for CircleCI, and in my role at CircleCI, I basically engage the community at a grassroots level to understand how they're using technology, understanding some of the obstacles they're having with, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment, or any other typical problems, right, that they have that kind of reference software development. So, super happy to be here. And by the way, that also includes security issues, right? So that's super important that folks understand when you're developing software, security should be number one on your list while you're developing software. But super excited to be here.
So thank you again, Angel, from joining us halfway or a third of the way around the world in Iceland. Hopefully it's warmer there than it is here. I'm actually calling in from the DC area. So I'm Brian Reed. I'm the Chief Mobility Officer at NowSecure. I've been doing mobile and application development since Visual Basic 1.0. To give you some history more recently, I worked for a small mobile security company called BlackBerry. And then a lot of other security technology in the mobile world. So I'm here to share our experiences in working with mobile development teams and mobile security teams as well. So our agenda very quickly will be rolling into the pipeline, automating the pipeline, both the development process and the build, code, test, release processes. Got some takeaways for you, got a bunch of resources. We want to make sure that not only what you learned today, but you can extend your learning. We'll have a little bit of fun with trivia and prizes at the tail end as well. And so be sure to pay attention. Something you will learn today that you may have already known will be our quizzes at the end that will allow you to win awesome swag bags. So briefly about NowSecure. NowSecure was born back in 2009. For those of you who are counting, that's when Android shipped. And our founder was very interested in what was going on security-wise and forensics-wise on those initial Android and iOS devices. And so he created a business for mobile forensics that then grew into mobile pen testing, that grew into mobile application security testing software and services, which is who we are today. Looks like we have more development people than security people here, but security people, if you know Frida and Radari, that are really popular reversing tools. The creators of Frida and Radari are part of NowSecure, as is their technology embedded in the products. We work with companies large and small. You'll see mobile-only companies like Uber here. You'll see AT&T, who obviously is a mobile company in their own right, and lots of other big brands. And so most of our customers use us in a CI/CD pipeline with a platform like CircleCI. So, Angel, would you like to introduce CircleCI to the crowd?
Yeah, absolutely. So, CircleCI is a continuous integration, continuous deployment or delivery platform. And what we do is enable developers to just focus on what really matters to them, which is their code, right? And producing quality, secure code consistently and reliably, right? So, the company was founded in 2011. We're currently above 480 employees, and that growth kind of just came on probably in the past year and a half or so. We have one of the biggest CI/CD platforms in the world, and the reason why we're so successful with developers is we handle all of the infrastructure for you, right? So in typical CI/CD platforms, a lot of times you have to set it up, right? And then you have to allocate infrastructure and resources to that. And then you have to monitor and make sure that your CI/CD infrastructure and platforms are humming along nicely and that they can scale. But believe it or not, most of those, kind of manual installation or behind the firewall CI/CD platform installations don't scale very well. So that's one of the benefits of us is of CircleCI is you can basically we scale the infrastructure and the resources for you. And again, the developers and the software development teams can just focus on what they do best is and write code. We do in our cloud environment 3 million plus builds per day. So that's a lot of builds, right? We're building a lot of projects for a lot of our customers. And then again, the platform is in our cloud version, which is basically a service. Again, you don't have to really do much except for just git commit and push upstream. So then we trigger our builds. And then finally, we do have offerings for folks who actually have, regulatory compliance regulations. So there is like an on-prem, which is also very robust and scalable, right? So we kind of try to bring that cloud experience over to the folks that need to run things in controlled environments. And here's a list of some of our customers, right? Pretty big name brands there. And yeah, we love them and they love us. So it's a good relationship.
Absolutely. And as we're going to talk about today, we found that a lot of our mobile application development customers use CircleCI because of its simplicity in the cloud and because it's built with a lot of features specific to mobile application development that we'll talk about today as well. So thank you for that introduction. Now, one of the things that's tradition in the DevSecOps bunch is a couple of polls. We're going to ask 2 polls here, so get your keyboards ready. So if you could open the first poll, Whitney, please. Our first poll is, what is your role? And this helps us understand. Angel and I will kind of steer our story based on your background, your role, and what you're going to want to know. We're going to ask you a next question here for more detail on it. Our guess is there'll be a mix of development and security people. I took a quick look at some of the names of people who registered. There was actually a fair number of development people. There was also a fair number of security people. So we'll leave the poll open for about 15 more seconds. For the crowd we have here, would be great if a few more folks would like to fill out the poll. Looks like our trend line here, interestingly enough, is we're about 15% are developers, about 47% are security, about 10% are execs, and we've got a 25% are others. Well, we're happy to have others here as well today within this crowd. And so let's move on to the next question, and I'll advance the slide. A lot of what Angel and I talked about as we got ready in this is it's really all about the need for speed, right? Everybody's looking how to code faster, test faster, stage faster, release faster. So we can fire up our second poll here. And this is all about, what's holding you back right now. There's lots of different reasons. They could be political, they could be organizational, they could be skills wide. There's a variety of reasons things might be slowing you down. We'd love to know from your experiences what might be slowing you down so we can make sure that the stories we're sharing mix with the things that might actually be slowing you down in your organization. So we'll leave the.
I really like this question. I think this is an excellent question for today.
Absolutely, right. And it really kind of, this is a shared experience for all of us, right? I speak at a lot of events. I do a lot of strategy sessions. Everybody has all of these challenges at some point in time, right? And it's kind of a function of where are you today. So I'm going to read a few results, and Angel, looking forward to your comments. So it looks like 40% is the leader in terms of pipeline automation. So lack of pipeline automation, lack of functional automation, lack of test automation seem to be our big 3. How does that compare with your experience, Angel? And any tips for folks you might use?
Yeah, this looks spot on, actually. So always for me, it looks like, so the lack of pipeline automation is always number 1. The lack of functional testing and security, the 33% is definitely spot on as well. Yeah. So this looks kind of on trend, what I usually find in the patterns.
On trend with your experience too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. So we're here to talk about automation. So we're excited to do that with you all. So, part of the premise of this is, you don't have to go buy 100 tools to run a fast pipeline, right? And some of you may recognize this image from the Cloud Native Foundation. It has actually been used more in humor by many presentations I have seen or conversations I've been in. I was actually in a panel with a federal working group around DevSecOps on Tuesday, and another gentleman brought this up and said, this is not what you're trying to do. Don't be worried about all these little nitty-gritty details. When you hit maturity level, then you can be looking at what you really need basically is development tools, a pipeline, and testing tools. And you should be able to get started there. And what CircleCI and NowSecure have done together is say, hey, wouldn't it be great to just have all this stuff running in the cloud in kind of an elastic condition? So you just can fire up your development and just plug in our tools and be off and running. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, because this is kind of nuts unless you're super mature on the curve. So Angel, you guys have done some interesting research around performance and pipeline automation. How about some stats here for us?
Yeah. So these numbers are generated from, so let me take a step back. Like I mentioned earlier, the platform, is a cloud service, comes in the form of cloud service. So what that means is we have multi-tenancy, right? So we have a lot of our customers running all of their jobs in our infrastructure, and we have performance data based off of the jobs, not necessarily looking into the code and seeing what's happening, but we understand and know what's actually being executed, right? So we know, again, we don't know the code or what's happening with the applications, but we know that Java applications are being triggered, right? JavaScript applications, mobile applications, whatever the stack is. But again, we have a lot of metadata, performance data. And yeah, we also know how many failures, right? Teams are having and organizations are having within their pipelines. We also have data such as what we call recovery. So if you get, if your team is failing quite a bit in certain builds, we also know when those builds have been recovered, right? So it's very useful information, especially when you're interested in increasing the velocity of your team's performance, right? So that software development, you're trying to create software as quickly as possible. Having, this performance metrics like how many failures and then how much time it takes to recover from that is very important. And as you can see, if you look to the right at that 80% mark, what that means is when people build CI/CD pipelines within the platform and trigger a run of a build, right? So, that means you just uploaded some changes, CircleCI detects it. All of those workflows finish in less than 10 minutes, or 80% of those, I'm sorry. That means that pipeline is pretty efficient, right? So a developer can, take a 10-minute break, come back, and consistently, right, come back and they should have some results. And then they can decide like, okay, if I'm successful, great. If not, then, make some changes and run that pipeline again. At the end of the day, keeping those pipelines super, short in duration is the goal, while, executing the important tasks that you need to execute, such as testing, security vulnerability scans, and all the awesome stuff that NowSecure does, right? So, just showing you some of these numbers, it's all about, like Brian said, the speed, right? Keeping a reasonable cadence in your pipeline builds. And also, failure is good, by the way, right? So if you're failing, I would expect you to be failing quite often, because you want to know if something's wrong. If you're running pipelines and you're not failing, I would be very, very suspect of that. So going through these numbers, yeah. What was that, right?
I just said something else is wrong if you're not failing ever.
Yeah. So well, the thing is, I hear a lot of teams go, it's almost like a gamification, like, wow, we have these stats now, and now they kind of set themselves to that standard, and then it's like, if you fall below it, or if there's more increased failures, they get kind of upset or antsy. And I'm like, no, that's good. Like, this is great stuff, because if you're consistent, that's nice too. But I think it becomes a little suspect to me. So that's all I have on the stats and all that good stuff.
It's all good. I've got a few stats to share as well here.
Yeah.
When we sort of think about mobile and web and all the rest, you may or may not be aware that at the latest data since 2017, about 75% of all internet traffic and digital time spent is actually in mobile apps, and that's actually gone up since the pandemic hit. We were talking, Angel and I, about travel earlier, right? Travel is now a mobile device with a mobile ticket, right? Mobile entertainment on the plane, and the list goes on and on, right? And so, but a lot of organizations, they're highly optimized around web because it was there first, and they may have optimized their pipelines as well as their security testing, but they haven't necessarily done that for mobile for a variety of reasons, be it technology challenges, skills, priority, or whatever. And when I first got to NowSecure, I had the opportunity to start benchmarking data. We scan the millions of apps in iTunes and Google Play in the app stores, right? And for people who are on the phone, you probably got 70 or 80 mobile apps on your device. I could show you a dashboard of health for all those things. And the shocking thing for me was to discover 4 years ago that 85% of App Store apps have security flaws. The second shocking thing is it never gets better ever, year after year after year. We keep publishing more apps and we keep having security issues. Now, if you're a security person on the phone, what we're actually looking for is, does the app fail one or more of the OWASP Mobile Top 10, which is an industry benchmark, best practices way to get security testing, right? Now, if you're in the web world, you would also probably say that cross-site scripting never ever seems to go away, even though it's actually a solvable problem, right? So, but to go with that, it's often when we talk with organizations about why, it's they don't have tooling, they don't have automation, they don't have skills, and the automation seems to be one of the biggest things, right? So they're running the CircleCI pipeline with 10-minute builds and pushing them to prod, and that doesn't leave any time for security testing. And so security test automation has kind of been in the dark ages until just a couple of years ago, when real automation materialized for mobile application security testing. That's why I joined the company. I've been around it for a while. I'd seen manual pen testing and manual DAST and all those ugly things. And suddenly we had this black box thing that could run an automated security test and do 70, 80% of a pen test in like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So you do a 10-minute build, you do a 20-minute analysis, assume all the lights are green, you're pushing within an hour. Wow, that's awesome. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So when we think about mobile independent of web, some of you may be web-oriented folks that are kind of learning your way into mobile on the journey. There's some interesting complications here, right? And I'm not going to say web is predictable. What I'm going to say is mobile has many splintering vectors, right? You got multiple operating systems, you have multiple development environments and coding languages, both those created by Apple and Google, 2 for each of iOS and Android. There's also a zillion frameworks, third-party tools, low code, no code, and pick your favorite SDK or framework. And along with that, the devices themselves have varying capabilities. So while your web server might have the same basic capabilities, no matter which web server you deploy on, iOS and Android are different, even down to which build the operating system is running. The other thing that's interesting about it is when we think about kind of defending a web app, about 90 to 95% of a web app's behind a firewall and inside your perimeter, right? Give or take your use of cloud services. And as a result of that, you can build the moats and the bridges and the gates and the walls and the locks that make it really hard to not only get to the code of your web app, but get to the data behind your web app. Mobile's the other way around. That app runs on a mobile device that's easily hackable, easily reversible. You can see everything. You can see the IP. You can see the sensitive data. You can do trace routes. You can discover what APIs they're hitting on the back end and all that other stuff. And so now you're thinking about quality in terms of the hygiene of how you're even architecting a mobile application to run. When we look at...
Brian.
Yep.
I was going to interrupt real quick. I have a good a friend of mine. He's an awesome mobile developer, and he's also a great kind of there's individuals that love to reverse engineer things. He's awesome at that, and he always says, if you want to reverse engineer anything, start at the mobile level, and work your way back, which kind of drives that point that you're saying.
Yeah, many breaches, it's not well known, but many of the nasty breaches you've heard, I'm not going to go to SolarWinds and stuff like that, but many of the nasty breaches of major brands actually have started with surveillance and attack dynamics around the mobile app itself because of how much it can actually expose about how a business operates. And so from a threat vector, mobile is sort of like half open kimono, for a bad guy to figure out their way in. And when you talk about platform builds, now you're on build environments. So is it building in the cloud? Is it building on a Mac OS piece of hardware because you're building an Apple app? And some of the things you might be able to get away with on desktop or web are a little more complicated in all of this. So all the end game around build, test, deploy is a little bit different from mobile than web. And so you need to figure out your way through that path. And we're going to share some best practices and some technology today to hopefully make that magic happen for you. So we want to talk about pipelines, of course. And, this is all about how driving developer productivity while delivering innovative apps and making sure you bake in, quality and security. So you probably in your organization have some kind of picture like this, right? This is kind of representative of, all right, so we have requirements design, we write some code, we commit the code, we build the code, we test it, rinse and repeat. That's the little circular arrow. Eventually we go into staging and then we go into deployment, right? And our objective here is to go as fast as you can from left to right with as few cycles as possible. And if you're going to do cycling, make sure they're short and small and discrete, and do small things incrementally, right, through that life cycle. And so when we look at, where does the rubber meet the road? Well, there's a variety of challenges in this, right? First one is if I'm trying to build a giant complicated infrastructure with many tools, how do I get that all glued together and make it run? And by the way, when every tool versions, if I've got 22 tools running my pipeline, what happens when one versions and breaks another, right? So there's actually simplicity and elegance that we're going to show you as a solution today. If I wait to do automation till the end, maybe I just automate my staging, but I don't automate the life cycle. Well, that's not very effective. And if I have manual staging and deploy, welcome to inserting human error here that can also cause you trouble, right? So Angel, I'm sure you've seen every horror story under the sun here. What would you like to add as we go through this?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a good depiction of kind of the generalities, right, that people experience. I will add that some of the things that occur some of the steps within these pipelines can occur concurrently as well, right? So that could add some speed add speed, but it does, like you said, can also introduce, some. I think they're good red flags, right? So like if you're building for different versions of OSs or operating systems on mobile, you can do that concurrently, which should progress nicely and not disturb the velocity of your pipeline, and also suss out any version specific issues that you can address. So this is a great depiction of a performance pipeline and the challenges that come with it.
Absolutely right, and we've got some crazy customers like Uber, who builds 170 versions of their apps for every country in the world, right?
Right.
So, one common code base with stage deploy for a bazillion countries pushed into app stores, and so whether you've got 2 or 3 or 5 apps, or you're just getting started, or you've got bigger, more complex environments, all of this stuff are the kinds of things people bump into. And so next couple slides are yours. I'll drive, Angel, you talk.
Yeah. So at CircleCI, we try to give every platform the capacity and resources it needs. In our mobile story, we've just recently upgraded our build environment. So when you execute a pipeline, if you're using the cloud environment, you're basically executing all that stuff in our runtimes, which are nodes that we create for you. But we've actually increased the performance of our emulators, right? If you're a mobile developer, the biggest pain point is how to get a performant emulator up and running inside of whatever host. So we've done some huge tweaks to our nodes, and now those emulators are performing really, really well. We actually have a coworker who is also a developer advocate, but prior to becoming a developer advocate, he was a mobile developer. And so, of course, we have him kind of swarming all over, right? Like the performance capabilities that we created. And yeah, he's pretty satisfied with it. Of course, emulation is never perfect, but it's way better than what we had. We also have offerings for the iOS folks, right? So if you're trying to write applications and run some sort of CI/CD pipeline automation, you can definitely leverage CircleCI to do that with the iOS platform. And yeah, our iOS developers really love the platform because, again, they don't have to stand up, and especially Apple, right? They have a very proprietary licensing that creates situations where you have to, the emulation has to occur right on their platform and function that way. So yeah, it's really exciting time for us to be, and with the releases that we've had for our mobile application development resources, they're awesome, and I'm super happy to see folks are really enjoying them and getting a lot of work done with minimal effort.
Absolutely. And so kind of at the heart of it, one of the things we have seen and heard feedback on is this easy setup and run, right? Just add it to the repo and you're off and running, which is awesome. So
right.
One more for you here.
Oh yeah. So the way that this kind of works, especially with we call it meeting developers where they are. Again, the focus for CircleCI is to provide all this awesome automation and tooling so that developers can focus in on what really matters to them. We have this concept of orbs, and at CircleCI we kind of keep our feature names kind of in a circular diameter or shape. So we named this feature orbs, and what essentially is an encapsulation of functionality. So we have orbs for like AWS CLI, if you use that often, because what we do is the way the system is configured, or your pipelines are defined and configured, are through YAML. The syntax is YAML, but then that can get voluminous, right, and hard to maintain and read. So we've actually, like I said, created this orbs feature, and all that does is essentially takes commands and functionality that you use consistently over and over and over, and packaged it up in a more easily readable configuration. So that means it's similar to, if you're a programmer, object-oriented programming, right? So we separated the concerns, we created this encapsulation, and then provided the orb is almost like an object, right? Or a class. I'm sorry, class for an object, so that you can just pepper your CI/CD configuration in the YAML with all these things. I know that NowSecure has an awesome orb out as well. So a lot of our partners, like NowSecure, use that functionality, and they create the patterns and functionality for their products, so that CircleCI customers and NowSecure customers can easily integrate, right, those features in your pipeline. With like 3 or 4 lines of code, you have now a job in your pipeline that does security scanning using NowSecure, which is really awesome, right? Before you would have to do like maybe 100 or 150 lines of code. Now with 3 lines of code, you can integrate your favorite NowSecure tooling into your pipeline, and it will execute every time your code changes, which is really awesome.
Absolutely, and part of the theme today is all about making it easy. Right. So the orb is kind of an interesting, unique way to encapsulate functionality. And so for a lot of our organizations, to us, meeting the developer where they are means just snapping our functionality into the pipeline and just letting it run. Right. And that's a really straightforward thing to do. Setup time is in minutes, right, in order to get there. And so as we ram software kind of moving through this pipeline, right, so now we're building our app on code. I've taken the CircleCI platform, I've integrated it with my repo, I've integrated the NowSecure orb, and potentially other technology is necessary to run my pipeline. We can think about, what does security testing mean in this context? And I'll go back to our original picture of, well, yeah, you could buy like 20 security tools if you wanted to, but you don't really have to if you don't want to, right? So there's lots of things that are lots of choices, right? Are you going to scan your source? Are you going to scan your open source? Are you going to do static scans? Are you going to do IDE plugins? Are you going to do dynamic testing? Wait, dynamic testing is hard to automate. Does that mean I'm actually doing manual pen testing? The challenges that come with that. And so, it's a good collection of things you could do, but there are some challenges to this too. And so when we were designing NowSecure and working with our clients, what they wanted was easy to run, right? It was less about is it SAST or DAST or name your favorite, IAST or APIsec or name your favorite thing. It was more about, can you create something that will run automatically in my pipeline? And I don't want it to have the high false positives of static source code. I want to make sure I get good code coverage. I can't have it take 2 weeks to do a scan, right? Angel's talking about a 10-minute build. Yeah. Right? I can't have a 10-minute build at a 2-week scan, right? That's no way to run a business, right? And oh, by the way, I'd like to test earlier in the cycle and get faster feedback loops because I can't wait till the end to, make all this work. And so what's happened is organizations struggle with this and they start suppressing or stopping using their security tools. And that's why we have 85% of the apps in the App Store have security vulnerabilities because they just steamroll right through the security stuff, right? And so that's not a bad thing, but that certainly puts your, kind of organization at risk. So a couple of years ago, we launched NowSecure platform. It was the first fully automated mobile application security testing tool that actually can run autonomously in a continuous security testing mode. And using this pattern, what you're really doing is instead of trying to scan the source and guess how the app runs, you actually run mobile binary analysis directly. And that means it doesn't matter what code language you're written in. You're actually measuring the behavior as the app runs on a real device with an automation engine sitting on top of it. And because you're doing that, now you're running the app just like the reverser that Angel was talking about earlier. It's the way the attackers do it. And because we've got that history in reverse engineering and pen testing, we're like, oh, okay, how do we take much of what they do and automate as much as we can within reason? Yes, you're not replacing human ingenuity of a pen tester, but you know what? Can you get the 80-20 rule? And that's really what we've been trying to build to, right? And what's cool about it is it's a standards-based approach. So it uses, application security standards like OWASP, also tests for things like NIAP if you're in the federal government, or IOXT if you're a mobile device or an IoT world, or HIPAA or GDPR, or pick your favorite compliance thing. And it finds security issues, but because we've been doing this for a long time, we also give you a bunch of issues that might cause you to fail when you submit to Apple or Google in the App Store. They're getting more and more concerned about security and privacy and things like that. And so they could block your app because of some of those things. Now, when you turn it on, what's actually going to happen is you can run it in an on-demand mode. So a developer or a security tester, QA tester can just log into the web interface. It's all cloud-based. You upload an app, runs tests, go get your cup of coffee, grab your lunch. 20 minutes later, you get the results. And people will start there, but usually they'll switch quickly into the autonomous. It just runs in the background. Think of it like a cardiac monitor in your development pipeline that's watching for security bugs being produced as binaries are getting built. Runs a battery about 600 tests, which is kind of insane, honestly. And then, generates tickets back into the ticketing system you're using. So CircleCI might be, your pipeline tool. You might be using, Jira or Azure DevOps boards or what have you. And it'll generate those tickets with all the gory details that a developer needs to fix it. And I'll give you a quick shot of that in a little bit. And what's really great about it is now you don't have a DevOps engineer or a developer or a security or QA person sitting there pushing buttons. The system is doing real-time testing as you're building the applications and can be run in parallel. Angel made a good point earlier. We often run in parallel with functional testing and integration testing tools at the same time. And that's how you can collapse your pipeline speed through it. Because it's functionally designed around dynamic testing and interactive testing at the core, it's very accurate, right? So it includes many POCs for every vulnerability it finds, which means you're squashing that annoying SAST high false positive rate as well. Yeah. Some cool magic under the hood to make this thing work. And so, we kind of tie the two stories together. Automating your build, test, and deploy, and then automating your mobile AppSec are like two peas in the pod. They just kind of run together and they give us really great benefits. Angel, what are your thoughts to share with organizations about efficiency as they bring these two tools together?
Yeah, so one of the biggest issues I think, most people face is the number one issue is like your poll stated, right? That they don't even use CI/CD platforms or automation, number one, right? So, but if you are using that, the second kind of issue is, a lot of folks think that by adding a CI/CD tool to their, build processes or whatever will solve all of their problems. without really looking at their software development lifecycle practices, right? So I'm just talking conceptually. First, you have to get that kind of hammered out and understand how you're building your software or how you want to build your software. Once you have that, you can implement the automation to facilitate that, right? that life cycle. I think there's a big disconnect. They're not really aligned. You know what I mean? In the sense when the software development life cycle is one process and has different different segments of that process. Those segments are not reflected properly in the automation. If that makes sense, right? So that's number one. Like, so if I'm going to give advice, make sure that your software development lifecycle processes conceptually, right, are aligned with the automation. Meaning, if you build, a binary or an artifact for, like I said earlier, multiple versions of an operating system, make sure that those builds are consistent, right, in the platform. And that's one of the things that CircleCI does really well. We have this feature called Build Matrix, and literally you can just kind of build a job and then just change the version number, right? And then the system will go ahead and just test for those versions for you. And of course, right, if you have an issue, then you'll know right away, hey, this is flagged for version, whatever, 14, 15, 11, whatever. The other bits are, again, when you're building, especially with mobile, it's funny. The emulation parts, they do tend to, skewed towards the longer duration of a build, but even that's manageable, again, by ensuring that you're testing in the appropriate segments of your pipeline, if that makes sense. So if you're in the beginning stages, maybe you're just kind of hashing out an MVP, minimal viable product, or doing some R&D, you don't have to run the full battery of your test. But I will suggest that you'll run whatever security components you have on every commit, because you just want to get that warm, fuzzy, safe feeling and have confidence that this stuff's been checked, right, with every change. And even with those tests, I don't think you have to, and Brian, you can interject, but I don't think you have to run the full battery every time, right? Like you just have to kind of segment your stuff properly. So that goes to, like, again, the software development lifecycle, and then, aligning the segments properly so that, you're proficient and running things efficiently as possible.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I'll take that lead into the testing piece, right? So with NowSecure, you can configure baseline testing, which is like a smoke test, right? So it's a standard set of tests you can run repeatedly, no configuration necessary, just push and go. Has a very high success rate. It's actually got a randomizer in it. If you're familiar with chaos engineering, that smoke test is going to use its randomizer to find things. And so if you're testing every day, every build, we may hit on something in the randomizer that an attacker might find by combining a couple different commands at the same time from that perspective. And then when you're really in, nearing production, then you want to do the advanced testing, right? That's where you've got deeper dive analysis and regression work going on. And if it's a low risk app, you don't even need to get there. The smoke test is well more than enough for a lot of applications. I mean, baseline testing is what we use to analyze the 5 million apps in the App Store. And I already told you, it found 85% of them have vulnerabilities, right? So just doing baseline is great code hygiene in terms of improvement. And but alignment is really important, as you said, right? Aligning each stage of the process and looking at incremental improvements you can do. And a lot of what we try to build in our tool sets is to really bring that productivity, right? So simply change the matrix and you're off and running, right? Rinse and repeat, copy, edit one word in a script and go, right? All of those things are really designed around productivity gains. And it's designed to be easy to use for developers, DevOps, QA and security teams. You don't need a master's degree in configuration skills or YAML code writing skills in order to make the magic happen. And so we thought we'd just do a quickie show and tell, right? So the NowSecure orb can be configured in less than 10 minutes. So you download the orb, you have to attach to our workspace, which means you generate a token from our cloud that authenticates that you are who you say you are, and you have the right to access our data from your orb repo. And then you choose what level of testing. Do you want to do the baseline or the advanced or what have you, and click go and you're done. It's that simple. I think there's 2 or 3 lines of YAML configuration you'll do. really super straightforward. It's probably our fastest integration of any technology we do. And then at runtime, it just runs. So the majority of our customers just have NowSecure running in the background autonomously. So on the left, you're going to see a build job running, right? So a mobile application is being built. If you look really quickly, you can see that happening with a little test app we call AnyDo. And then when the build is done, it's passed to the NowSecure cloud. So from your CircleCI cloud instance to the NowSecure cloud instance, we're both multi-tenant, secure, SOC 2 certified. And then in our cloud, it's going to run the app, take 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the level of testing you choose. And when it's done, it's going to automatically generate tickets. If we find 5 vulnerabilities, it'll generate 5 tickets. If we find 10 vulnerabilities and 5 are repeat tickets and 5 are new, then we'll just update the existing tickets and then, flag the new ones for there as well. And so what that's really doing now is it's driving that automation theme. And, in terms of meeting developers where they are, they don't have to do anything. They just get tickets generated to them inside of the ticketing system, like they get their feature requirements and they can prioritize and, do the work that they need to. And that's how you get that super fast feedback loop, right? Kind of running in a fast cycle. Now,
this is also, I was going to say, this is also very, very important for the, when we're talking about DevSecOps, when you have an automated system that can generate these tickets, and we do have an orb as well in CircleCI for Jira. So if you needed to wire that up, right, you can actually combine the combined power of NowSecure and Jira and CircleCI. The cool thing about this, when you're talking about DevSecOps, right, you're with the concept of DevSecOps, you're just trying to integrate or at least increase the communication between your dev and ops operations and cultures with your security culture. And this is a good example of how you can, just having these tickets generated from an automated system, the security folks don't even have to go into any tooling except for maybe, the ticket system, read that, and they can collaborate right within the portal. So again, streamlining that collaboration around, vulnerabilities or any kind of issues is really important in again, gaining a little bit of speed, right? So you're not slowing your releases down dramatically because you're waiting on someone to okay it. If you have that good collaboration, right, your security personnel can just get alerted and be proactive and say, okay, this is okay or acceptable, right? Whatever the case may be for the vulnerability. I just wanted to add that this is a good point of that DevSecOps marriage, right?
Very, very, very much so, right? And again, we're trying for using automation for efficiency, right? And enabling each worker to do the work they need to and eliminating work wherever possible, right? So people can get on with their day jobs. We had one customer who came to us and said they had actually hired 2 people and all they did was review false positives coming from their SAST tool every day, all day. And when we showed them this, their chin hit the floor. And so, it is possible to migrate. Now, just real quick, a couple of screenshots. So imagine this is in whatever ticketing system you're using. I didn't happen to have all the details of this inside my Jira test instance, so I'll just use this. But, we find things like passwords in clear text, right, over the network. We'll tell you what it is. We'll give you steps to reproduce it. We'll tell you what the impact is. We'll give you every instance of where that happened. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 instances of that API call being made while we did the test run, and there's some contextual data that goes with that. And we tell you how to fix it, right? So right there in place, you're going to get code examples. You're going to get links to the Apple and Google documentation. In some instances, you can get a video to learn more. And so all of this is really designed around the developer productivity. So there's no hunting and pecking trying to figure out, it found a password. How did that happen? No, here's where you did it, and here's where you need to fix it, and so on and so forth. Because really, it's all about making the developer productive, right? They don't want to find security bugs. They hate it. It's embarrassing. It's frustrating. So let's find them. Let's make sure we know which ones we care about, and then make it easy and fast for them to go ahead and fix them. And this work has been really great because we've done a lot of this in collaboration with our customers. And so the remediation resources and links are the kinds of things we found our customers were using in order to solve the problem. And they're like, can you put it in the product? We said, sure, here you go. And so we continue to grow that out over time as new things happen, like new operating systems get released. We just had Worldwide Developer Conference last week for Apple. iOS is coming. It's got some new updates. Yes, there are security and privacy things in them that you're going to need to build for and test for as well. And so with this, what we're really kind of trying to do is, if you're British, the easy peasy thing, right? Like, it's actually easy to run a very simple mobile pipeline. Get your code. Of course, you're going to pick tools, but get your code repo, get your automated build, get your automated test, put them together. And that's really all you need to build and publish a mobile application these days, because of the level of elasticity and pre-built infrastructure we've created for you. And so you can start with the simple, and then you can layer in more configuration options, more parallel pipelines, faster processing, run things in parallel. Maybe I want a little automated functional testing. Maybe I have to stage on multiple different continents and different data centers, or I need to deploy to different kinds of systems and infrastructure. But you can start small and easy. And for a lot of organizations, it's about getting that first app started and moving quickly. Angel, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I know. So again, yeah, I agree 100% with what you said regarding, start with a simple pipeline as you're building this, and then layer in those complexities. One of the things that you can leverage and a lot of folks are kind of realizing this now, is Git tagging. Yeah, and in CircleCI we have this feature where you can filter on jobs. So when the pipeline kicks on, and using the multi-country example that you said, Brian, some companies build X amount of applications for individual countries. With those flagging capabilities, let's say I'm in the US and I'm building, or let's say I'm in Iceland and I'm building the Uber app for Iceland, which doesn't exist here, by the way. But if they were going to bring Uber here, you could just flag your Git commit with a Iceland tag, right? And then it'll filter and not run all the other, build jobs for the other countries, just for Iceland. So yeah, start small, simple, and then layer in. You can add more comprehensive segments to your pipeline to get you where you need to be ultimately. But my experience is, most teams start off trying to do everything all at once, and then they come to the realization, like, wait a minute, we need to take a step back, decouple everything, and then start that pipeline over. So
exactly,
this is good advice. Yeah, that's very consistent with kind of the patterns that we see on a daily.
So just to summarize, right, what we're really trying to do is, value comes in the quality of what you build. Value also comes with speed, right? And take the simple start. Use these tools to your advantage with the simplicity of configuration and automation, then scale them into more complex deployment scenarios, multi-app scenarios, multi-platform scenarios, multi-development team scenarios, and so on and so forth. And if you're in a large organization and you're struggling with using kind of the legacy manual tools, right? Get started with a new innovation team and look at switching over to technologies like what we're talking about, because that can really help you move the needle overall. And so with that, to kind of keep rolling here, I'm watching the clock now in the background. Maybe you'd like to share a story of an organization you've worked with who's been going down this path successfully.
Oh, absolutely. So I'll discuss the Bolt company relationship. So one of the CircleCI and Bolt are very friendly, very helpful to one another. And the reason why I appreciate that relationship in this case study is, Bolt, their build processes were very, I want to say, very complex, right? So like, not complex in the sense that they didn't know what they were doing and just got out of control. It's just they have complex, build processes, because they want to achieve the most efficient way to build things, right? So obviously with simplicity, there is times where complexity has to be introduced in that. So it's taking that complex build process and then making it simple. So with Bolt, they actually helped us build out some of the new features because of the way that they built their software. They were very friendly towards us and very helpful in educating us on some of the systems some of the things that were lacking in our pipeline kind of automation. And yeah, we recently released what we call dynamic workflows. So now, because of Bolt and their team, we were able to kind of identify some of the things we kind of already knew, but they had solved some of those problems. So they helped us kind of incorporate, right, some of their learnings into the system, and it, created these new features that are totally awesome for developers who, need that dynamic configuration to be built for their pipelines. At CircleCI, we have an awesome product, but we also have to evolve as well and understand, right, like some of the challenges. And again, Bolt was awesome for that project and those features.
Fantastic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about making coffee, or more to the point, making mobile apps to sell coffee. So Caribou Coffee is a really great story. They're an example of a smaller team, right? And if you think about who their competitor is, someone like Starbucks has had mobile coffee buying, order, walk in, take it for years. And, Caribou was more about the experience in store and, work on your poetry, read a book, work in the background, enjoy a nice cup of coffee, really nice fine china, those sorts of things. And when COVID hit, and so the reality was they had an app that was, log into their Wi-Fi and find their stores, but they didn't have an app that had the innovative like curbside pickup and pre-order your coffee and all that good stuff. So they came to us right in the initial part of the pandemic. They had to figure out how to innovate fast and now do financial transactions through those mobile apps, which they hadn't been doing before. So we were happy to work with them. They actually had a really slow quarterly release cycle. They're now at a monthly release cycle and collapsing even further into hopefully a biweekly cycle any day now. They may actually be there. I haven't talked to their CTO or to Heather recently, but it's really been a great acceleration. And I think they're a good example. Whether the company's large or small, you can move quickly if you choose to. And they went for simplicity, elegance, speed, simplified tooling chain, and a lot of partnership between dev and security in order to get them there. And it's a great story. We're happy to introduce you to them or share more on the detail. So we'll take about 30 seconds to do quick takeaways. Angel, why don't you pick a couple of these to help people remember if they learned nothing for the last 50 minutes, they should go home and remember what?
Yeah, absolutely. Implement CI/CD pipeline automation. It's if you're not doing it, you're not doing it right? Or you're going to be doing it eventually, because it's here to stay, right? You have to add that automation to stay up to snuff with your competitors. Also, right, like just building your software, like I always say, consistently, reliably, right, and ensuring that you're producing the most quality code. And yeah, leverage any of the functionality that we have. We're always adding new things such as orbs, and adding new orbs per se to that system, that platform. If you go to CircleCI, I believe it's circleci.com/orbs, you'll be able to see a registry and just type a search, right? So you can look up your favorite, orb or tools that you use. NowSecure, you can definitely find them easily on that. And also, we're making a lot of headway for our mobile platform developers. One of the most complicated complicated things for CircleCI is to basically, provide resources and capabilities for all types of development, right? We're not just focused on mobile. We're doing web, static applications, whatever it is. And now we even have ARM as well. We've added, ARM capability. So, if there's something that's missing with CircleCI, which I think there's very few things missing, but if there is, we're receptive to hearing about how folks are what features are lacking, and hopefully we can build that out for you so that we can, include that as well. But other than that, definitely have your application secure and keep those pipeline durations down. We want to make sure that you're building that stuff super fast and confidently.
Absolutely. And when you look at it from the security perspective, think differently, right? I've been in mobile security I used to have real hair and it wasn't gray for almost 20 years, right? Dating back to BlackBerry. And the reality is today, it's not about perfect security. Perfect security means automated security to get you the speed you need at the quality you need in order to meet your customer requirements, whatever they are for the mobile apps you're building, right? So think differently about how to go about doing this. It is now possible to do autonomous automated security in the background in a build cycle, right? Which just wasn't even physically possible years ago. And that's really how you'll speed up your pipeline. You can tune it to be deeper and more complex if you want, but why do that? And that can really speed up your life. So I'm looking at the clock here. We've got some free resources. Angel, I'm just going to kind of jump over these for us so we can do Q&A.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of resources here. Everyone will get a copy of the presentation and the slide deck. You'll have all these resources. The 2020 State of Software Delivery was some of the data we were using earlier as well. NowSecure has some resources for you as well. So if you're new to mobile app security, go run the free cyber system we set up, and lots of other things all the way down into secure mobile development best practices. If you're intellectually curious on that bad app store data, have a look at the top 5. Whether you're a developer or a security person, the top 5 will help you hone in on where to focus your secure development skills as well as your secure delivery skills. We're super excited to be repeating our quarterly Mobile Developer Day. So for those of you who are developers and want to learn how to build secure mobile apps, we're going to have fun for a couple of hours. From 2 to 4 p.m. on June 30th. We do this every quarter. Please join us at the end of the month if you would like. You don't have to be a highly skilled developer. There are some tabletop exercises, but we guarantee you'll understand mobile threats and mobile AppSec and frankly, just secure coding best practices with takeaways a lot better if you join.
That's really awesome, Brian. I have to say, I commend you on that because, you know, you're kind of level setting for folks, right? And being more inclusive. Because I can tell you the complexities, you know, of that, and people get intimidated. But no, I just wanted to call that out. That's really awesome that NowSecure is doing that.
Well, thank you, Angel. And as a developer evangelist who lives in that world, you can certainly appreciate that. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is we have some giveaways. So both organizations have some swag bags that are giveaways, bags full of stuff that we will mail to you. We will get your full name and address on the background. So we're going to use the chat. So this is where you want to pay attention to the chat. You need to make sure panelists ask a panelist or communicate with a panelist is the TO box that you're going to send to. We had a few people sending us DMs earlier, so we know you're there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the first question. This is a question that comes from CircleCI. When I finish the question, the first 3 people to correctly answer in chat the first question will get the CircleCI swag bag. So that's the first 3 people. So I will ask the question in 1 second. Make sure your hands are on the keyboard. We have 2 questions to ask. So we're going to do the CircleCI question and then the NowSecure question. You can probably guess the direction they're going to go. So our first question is, what does the acronym CI/CD stand for? What does the acronym CI/CD stand for? The first 3 people who answer in the chat will get the swag bag. Be careful. There are lots of ways people define it, but what we're looking for is the first 3 people. So Troy, Samuel, and is that Devaraj? Excuse me for butchering your name. Looks like you're the 3 who won.
Yes.
So very quickly, Whitney, who's helping us run in the background. Whitney, make sure you capture those 3 names. What did I say? Troy and Samuel and Devaraj will be our 3 winners. We will contact you offline for your contact information. Congratulations on winning the first one. All right, so we got the second question coming from NowSecure. You might guess it's an acronym again. This one is fun. You may or may not know this. So if you're in the land of security, you may know this. What does IAST, IAST, what does IAST stand for? The I is tricky in IAST. What does IAST stand for? Please enter in the chat button. We'll see how long it takes somebody to look that up on Google. InfoCirc, integrated, interactive. Okay. So it looks like we have some common winners again. So interactive application security testing is the right answer. So I think the first person who said interactive is Samuel. The second one is Troy. And the third one is David. Interactive, yes, interactive security testing. It is not integrated security testing, but a lot of people think it is, and that's not actually what it is. We think you should integrate your security testing, but interactive is a great way to do it. So thank you for playing along today. Our 6 winners will be getting some goodie bags afterwards. So we're going to move into Q&A, and we're almost right at the top of the hour. So I'm just going to handle 1 or 2 questions. I'm going to look.
I can hang out for as long as we need, so it's up to you.
We got it. We got it. So we'll do a couple and, you know, kind of go from there. So let me take a look here. Actually, the first question is, what level of security testing does NowSecure do? And so in that test run, we're actually doing SAST, DAST, IAST, and APIsec all in that 10 to 20 minute time run. And so depending on how you dial in the automation, you might get more code coverage. But the whole idea is, instead of buying 5 products, we got one in the box, much in the same way that CircleCI has the all-in-one box, you know, kind of scenario. So it's a very straightforward type of scenario to make you effective. And no, we don't charge you for 4 different products as an all-in-one price. That's very economical. So it looks like that was the first question. So let me take a look at the second question. So what's the most, this is for you, what's the most common place to start with your CI/CD deployment with CircleCI?
So if you're talking about like deploying in your pipelines, I think the most common place would be to some sort of MDM platform, right? As we're talking mobile specifically, yeah, I would say that's kind of the most common pattern that I see. So folks are just kind of test flighting things, making sure if they're going to do any kind of user acceptance testing, you have to get the application out. So yeah, that'd be like the most common deployment, and then the promotion from those user acceptance scenarios to then releasing, I don't know if you're doing canary deploys, where you're releasing to a certain percentage of your production or your live customers or users, so that they can kind of you can release these new versions to a smaller group of people, similar to like the concept we were talking about, start small and scale up. That's the kind of canary deployment you're doing, is saying maybe this new version goes to 10%. And if there's no errors, being recorded, then, you increase that deployment to 20, and you can slowly, progressively deploy to 100% eventually. So the answer is, yeah, try to, deploy to your MDMs, and then, use whatever kind of strategy you use to deploy to the larger audience after, there's different ways. There's so many ways to do it, but that's kind of the common way.
Got it. All right. So let's see. Second question. I'll take this. We can just kind of alternate through the questions here. So the second question for NowSecure actually has to do with the developer remediation. And so how much detail is included in the developer remediation? Well, I tried to give you a screenshot, and the way to think about it is that if we think about how does a developer fix a problem? Well, the first thing is you have to identify what it is. So we include that description in common language. It doesn't sound like security puke. The second thing is why you should care, right? Like unencrypted passwords, we probably should care about because someone could steal them and use them, right? The third one is priority, right? The challenge we have, as we've all been through building software, is you're never going to fix everything. We have no customer that fixes every security bug we ever find, right? Same thing with functional bugs. So we have a scoring algorithm built into the product. You can adjust it for yourself, but we have the high, medium, low scoring. And so most organizations will get started by saying anything high, make sure the developers fix it. Anything medium and low, maybe security reviews it, or it's optional, or it goes into the backlog or something else like that. The next thing is, where did it happen, right? So the developers need to find it in code. Now we're testing a binary, so we don't necessarily have source code level. In fact, our binary testing will find those vulnerabilities in third-party libraries, including third-party services running in the cloud and a whole bunch of other places. But that password example I showed you had 7 instances of the password. It actually turns out those are the times we caught the call. The call was actually being made in 2 different places. So it was good because they had common code that they could actually repair from that perspective. Now, once I get in there, odds are that the bug exists because I don't fully understand it. There is the chance I could have fat fingered a config parameter or something else. So a little bit of an explanation with the links to the original development resources are really helpful to help people move along. We do include code examples for a number of things. We may or may not have your exact code in there. It's just more guidelines on, oh, you can copy and paste and change the variable names and what have you, and make it work for you, but at least gives you the directional place to go. So all of those things really are designed around, collapsing the amount of time it takes a developer. I was sitting with one of our customers who said that they were in working with their developers, it typically took developers between 30 minutes and a day to fix a security issue. Now it takes them 10 minutes to an hour, maybe, give or take a level of research they might have to do, and depending on how complex their code repo is, in order to find where maybe they're making login calls in many different places. And that's really important point, by the way, is code standardization. Don't call login 5 different ways. Have one library or have one reference API that you're going to use for all your logins. Certify that login scenario, and then we won't find it repeating in other parts of your code. So actually, last one here then for you, Angel, is what does CircleCI do to help with the app stores like Apple App Store and the Google Play Store in terms of helping me move from my internal, we'll call it your canary deployment, as you said earlier, moving into I need to promote it, and then Apple has to approve it, and then it becomes live for the millions of users in the world.
Yeah, that's always a struggle, right? Like just connecting and getting direct access to those services and making sense of it. Like I said, my recommendation is if you can use a middle service, like there's plenty of them out there. I would recommend doing that, just because those services are super tuned to the changes that those app stores and the Google Play make. The reason why I say that is CircleCI is automation and it's basically unfettered, but we also recognize that when we create functionality, it's very broad, whereas those other services, they are focused on that, and if you can call them from your CircleCI pipeline, it's the best way, because then you just jump into that system and then control those deployment switches. Now we're getting CircleCI is kind of evolving in the deployment scenarios, so look out for some enhancements to that as well. We just acquired a company called Vamp.io. So a lot of that technology will be integrated into the platform, and then you should be able to leverage, the canary deployment stuff a lot easier, right, and in a more controlled native feel for CircleCI. So the answer is, I think right now, currently, just use CircleCI to access those MDM services, and then take the data outputs, and regurgitate them in your pipeline. And then from growing from there, like I said, we're adding more and more. So stay tuned to some of those deployments that are coming for mobile.
Awesome. Well, thanks for staying on, Angel. We ran a little over our time. We will be sharing the recording and slides with everybody. Once again, Angel and I, NowSecure and CircleCI, would like to thank all of you for attending today. Please reach out and follow up. Everyone will be getting an email with the slides and the recording and any other follow-up questions we didn't get to today. We wish you all the best and success in your DevSecOps journey, and we look forward to seeing you next month on our next DevSecOps bunch. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care. Thank you.